Alright, we're out here today, dig up some dandelions, greens, crowns, buds, and probably make a little mock coffee with the roasted roots, but it's a little late. Hopefully there's not too many that are in flower. I see a lot of flowers out here, but hopefully we'll find enough unflowered ones that we can harvest a bag or two of dandelions. I'll show you how to do that. Alright, here's some dandelions that haven't flowered yet. Looks like there's probably enough of them out here. Some more here. That one's got a long flower stalk on it. Looks alright. Okay, so the best way to do this is to get underneath the plant. This one's got a little bit of a flower bud on it, but it'll still be alright. We get way underneath it. You want to get underneath the crown. Get your knife in the ground. You'll feel the root cut. We'll pry it up a little bit. There. Now you got the whole plant. See how nice those greens are? That flower bud you can make into a caper. And a little bit of root we got, clean it up and roast it. Thin out our coffee when we make it. Let's do another one. It's got a flower stalk on it, but it'll be alright. There's another one. Another one here. See that? Nice dandelion plant. You want to leave the whole plant intact because they are a pain in the butt to clean if you don't leave the whole plant intact. I'll show you later when I'm cleaning what I mean. You only want to do this out in the woods where there's not getting a whole lot of sunlight. You don't want to do this in a yard or in town. You know, they spray and stuff, and you want to do it, and like I like to do it to harvest these on like the margins of woodlands where you know no one's sprayed. Pretty easy to do once you get the hang of it. Here's a really nice big plant. I'd find about 100 of these. I could probably can about half a canner full then. When they're whole like that, then it's easy to get all the dead grass and dead stuff off of it, stuff you don't want. people will tell you not to mess with the dandelions when they're as old as the ones that I'm digging up, but you really don't end up with much bulk if you pick the really early ones. They need water changes anyway, boiling water changes when you process them, because they're too latently bitter, at least for my taste otherwise. Moving right along. Get rid of all that stuff when we get home in the sink. getting into them now. I would prefer if the leaf stalk hadn't appeared yet, but I might need an extra water change on them. It might be overly bitter, but it'll still be good once they're canned up. See that white part there? That's the crown from about here to where the root starts. That's not bitter. It's good in salads, or actually what I like to do is I like to put boiling hot oil over them, olive oil or canola oil, and then let them sit for a good month. And then they kind of have an artichoke flavor. They're really good on pizzas and stuff. That's what I want right there. See how that, well, it still has a little flower stalk, but actually see how that bud is right there in the very center? If I would have came out like maybe a few days earlier, then it would have been absolutely perfect. But these will do. See that dandelion flower bud right there? Probably won't end up with more than a jar or two of wilted down cooked greens, but I was planning on canning some wild rice and black beans this later this week, and I can just throw those jars in the canner with them. Once you get the hang of it, it actually fills up the bag pretty fast. one doesn't even have a bud yet. These ones have been in the shade. They haven't got nearly as much sun as, you know, the ones you'd find in town, in the city. If you don't like being on your hands and knees, then you won't like doing this. That should be about enough. And there we have a whole bag of freshly harvested dandelions. Take them home and prep them for canning. Alright, we're back home and we're ready to clean our dandelions up. Get rid of any ill-looking or dead leaves, stray bits of grass. Pull the buds out, set them aside. Rinse them off a little bit. Getting rid of any non-pristine looking leaves. That's pretty good. Okay. Now, what I do is I take and pinch right below where it starts to get green. And I twist like this. And there I got my greens. Put them in a stock pot. Leave the greens set aside for now. Let's do another plant. Same procedure. Get rid of the dead stuff you don't want to eat. Two plants there stuck together. Kind of a ill looking leaf. Get rid of the bud. Buds plural. Dead grass. Grasp it right below the green of the leaf. Twist. Stock pot. Set that aside. We'll just do a few of them, give you an idea. Pull the buds out. The crown and a little bit of root. just keep doing that over and over again on all of them. As you can see, we got a pretty good mess of dandelion greens there in that stock pot. And over here we got a pile of crowns that need to be processed, attached to the roots, little bits of roots. And there we got a bunch of flower stalks with the buds. We gotta separate the buds from the flower stalks. The flower stalks are the most bitter part of the dandelion. They're, in my mind, completely inedible. So get rid of those. Show you quick here how to do that. So I'll get a paring knife, and what I'll do is take this right above the root, slice it. Hopefully it stays together, and it does. See, that's why it's called a crown. Looks like a crown. Put that in there. I'm actually going to put these in a bowl. Do another one here. Cut off the root section. Sometimes you'll get those little things coming off. Just get rid of those. There's another crown for the bowl. Actually, you should probably do a little rinsing here. I should probably be more attentive here. Rather than paying attention to the video, pay attention to what's eventually going to go into my stomach. A nice tight crown. These are pretty bitter right now. Not any more bitter than like a IPA beer. I wouldn't say any more bitter than that, but that's still too bitter for me. So, see, I didn't cut that off enough. So, in the end, there, that's pretty good. A bowl, another one. Sometimes I just don't like the look of some of the parts of it. I want it to be nice and white and clean like that. And then I'll cut it off like that. That's a dandelion crown. I'll just put the root section in the colander. Take care of them later. Do another one. Get rid of the offensive looking bits. Cut just above the root. Get rid of anything that doesn't want to stay attached. Dandelion crown. Kind of have to refresh my memory year after year as to exactly the most efficient procedure. I just realized, cutting the root off first is a little more efficient, and then pulling off anything that doesn't look perfect. Dandelion crown. Cut the root off. See, there's a little bud in there. That's fine. Perfectly edible and delicious when properly processed. Cut off the root. One more. Just finishing up taking the dandelion buds off the flower stalks. Probably going to combine the buds and the crowns in a jar. Now the crowns, I think are a little too bitter. So I'm gonna pour some boiling water over them and let them sit for a little while. Then drain them. That'll get rid of some of that bitterness. So yeah, they are there. Crowns. And here we have our roots. You gotta take the little bits of the plant off the top, and then we'll clean them up. Just get rid of that so it looks like a root. I'm just gonna keep doing this for a little while. Just so you got only root. You basically want to get rid of all this white miscellaneous crown pieces that are in here and connected. This is totally something, you know, if you don't feel like doing this, that's no big deal. I just kind of think it's fun to get as much out of the wild plants as I can. Because I'm not going to end up with a jar of grounds or something, ground coffee or something like that. Just to probably end up with a couple tablespoons. But okay, we pretty much got all them tops off of the roots. So I don't know if you saw my video on spring salad where I was cleaning toothwort tubers. I'll apply the same principle here. Just got them in the colander, and the best way to clean roots like this is just rub them against the mesh of the grate. Run the water. It's the best way to do it. Easiest way. If you have the time and you want to make the time to sit there with a darn toothbrush and whatever, and sit there and scrape them roots off like that, be my guest. But this is the easiest way. You're getting pretty well clean by just doing this. There's our meager amount of dandelion root pieces. Get a hot oven going here. I just crank it all the way up, 500. And we'll roast them until they smell like coffee. Shouldn't take too long. So after processing, here's cleaning, I should say. Here's what we ended up with. There's a little bowl of buds. There's the crowns. I poured boiling water over them to get a little of the bitterness out. There's a big mess of greens. Getting ready to cook them pretty soon. I got a bunch of water starting to boil on the stove. We'll give the greens the water treatment here. Alright, we got our water boiling here. Watch how quickly these wilt down when I pour the boiling water over them. They just go down in that pot like nothing. Just like spinach. Looks like you have a lot. Another one. Actually, I need this water kind of boiling all at the same time. Larger pots being a little slow on me. Getting a little too hot for this guy. Get this covered with boiling water. Okay, now we're gonna bring this to a boil again. These greens in it. get something to poke these greens down with. Now, I didn't get every little bit of dead grass and stuff, so as we do these water changes, you know, I'll keep my eyes open and pick out any little more offensive bits I see. Shouldn't take too long for this to come back to a boil. Poking around, seeing if I can find anything else I don't want in my greens that I can. There's a little brown thing. Let that come back to a boil. Got it back to a boil. Now we'll drain it in the colander. Now let's see what it tastes like. Probably gonna be too bitter. It's actually pretty good. No, I'm not going to give it another boiling water change. That's enough. Alright, I got 3 pint jars and a quart jar out, and we'll get these greens in the pint jars. I think I might actually have enough for 3 jars, which is pretty good considering how much they cook down, you know. I think I pretty much got all the dead grass and bad leaves and stuff out of there. I'll loosely pack them for right now. I like to get an idea of what exactly we got here. Noticed a little bit of grass in there. Oh yeah, we're easily gonna have three pints. That's cool. No. Dare I say 4 pints? Probably not. You know, the more tightly packed you have the pint jars, the better, because when you pressure can these things, they're going to wilt down even more. First time I ever canned greens, it was leek leaves. I raw packed them. I put the leaves in raw and canned them, and when I took the jars out, they had about 2 tablespoons of greens in each jar. I'll put half a teaspoon of salt in each canning jar, each pint, roughly. then we'll top them off with fresh water. About to there. Ideally, you would want the jars more full, but kind of ended up with an odd amount. You never end up with an exact amount when you're canning. I got the jars topped off with water that the greens are in. I'll sprinkle canning salt on the crowns that I drained from the boiling water, and sprinkle a little salt on the buds too. And we'll put the crowns and the buds together. I'll just kind of mix them up there so they're kind of evenly distributed. Get them in our quart jar. Now I'll get some hot oil going, and we'll top this stuff off with that. Okay, I got some hot oil. I just microwaved it. That's the easiest way to heat oil up. Be very careful with this oil though. It is not cold. Fried that up a little bit, didn't it? Pretty sound. Yeah, I'll just make sure they're covered. It's pretty good. Do not, like I tried to do once, pour the hot oil right back in your plastic container. It's not going to work very well. It'll melt the plastic. But I'll let that sit and cool. But while I used canola oil this time, you could use olive oil. I feel like canola has more of a neutral flavor. I'll get some lids on these here, and I'll put them in the fridge for a little while until I'm ready to do some pressure canning. You don't want to keep them in the fridge longer than a few days. They'll really decrease in quality after that. But if they're in the fridge for a few days, it's okay. Just take them out and let them sit, get to room temperature before you put them in the pressure canner. These I'll put a lid and screw band on. Right now I'm going to put just temporary lids on these, and then when I actually can them, I'll use the sealable lids. I'll just put some used ones on there for now. But that's how we did with dandelions today. Crowns and buds and pints of greens. And I'll let them sit for about a month, and then I can use them like artichokes, like canned artichokes. Here's what we end up with. This is a jar of dandelion greens. Ended up with 3 of these. Not too bad, eh? And then here's a meager amount of that root coffee that we made. You ever heard of Cafe du Monde or chicory coffee? Same concept. It's just roasted dandelion root, which is bitter, and then ground in the food processor. Then I'll mix that half and half with regular coffee. And I get a couple cups of that. Again, if you don't want to fart around with that, I can understand, but yeah, I like to utilize as much as I can. But this is really what we're after. Dandelion greens.